Okay, everybody, welcome back to In Progress. This is our weekly roundtable discussion of the political stories, issues, and ideas that are top of mind for progressive folks all across the Lone Star State. This week, I'm Chris Mosier, Communications Director here at Progress, Texas. Welcome if you're hearing us on the radio in Houston, KPFT FM 90.1. About us at Progress, Texas, we're a statewide nonprofit rapid response media organization promoting progressive messages and actions. We operate a major digital network, including social media, podcasts, and tons more, reaching millions of people all across Texas. In Progress is also heard on Sundays here on KPFT on the HD2 channel every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. This week, the full complement is here. Executive Director Kathleen Thompson. Hi, KT.
Hey, folks.
And Digital Associate Haley Smith. Hi, Haley.
Hey, y'all.
And Advocacy and Development Coordinator Tatum Owens. Hi, Tatum.
Yeah, this week I'm Tatum Owens too. Just like this week, Chris Mosier is Chris Mosier. Happy to be here.
That's right. We are all using, notably, our real names. These are all our real names, and that'll make sense for you here in a moment. Mm-hmm. So this week, y'all, we're kind of talking about the media. We're talking about what we do. We're talking about what KPFT does. And this is a moment where let me distinguish that Progress Texas is our own entity. We are in partnership with KPFT to share this show with you every week, and gladly so. We're big fans of KPFT. You may or may not know this. If you're a longtime listener, you do know this. KPFT is the only radio station to have been bombed off the air twice by the Ku Klux Klan, which to us here at Progress Texas makes them pretty damn cool, I would say. So
badge of honor, I think. Yeah,
we're totally proud to be here, but I do want to distinguish between Progress Texas and KPFT, two different entities for this particular discussion, because what we're talking about today is the media and what has become of the media. We have both this divide between what has become, increasingly billionaire-controlled corporate media, which you might, in many cases, call legacy media. And then you also have independent nonprofit media, which both KPFT and Progress Texas fall into that bucket. From there, we also have a political division. We have left-wing media. We have right-wing media. We have media that would like to obfuscate about that would like you not to understand that they might be left-wing or right-wing media. So we have a lot of different things to talk about here. And what prompts this discussion is a new article that's come out in the Texas Observer, also an independent and nonprofit media outlet, and a great one for the entire state of Texas. My personal favorite investigative journalist is Stephen Monticelli. We've had him on our podcast several times. He has done terrific work in the realm of Christian nationalism and all sorts of terrific reporting that he's done. He is out with a story that I'm going to kick to KT to describe what he's talking about another independent media outlet that is on the right wing in the Dallas area. Kathleen, talk about Stephen's reporting and what it's about and what happened.
So Stephen is covering a hit piece on State Rep Jean Wu that came out about 3 weeks ago in the Dallas Express. And for those who aren't from Dallas, or even if you are from Dallas and you don't know, the Dallas Express was a historically Black progressive media outlet. It was bought by hotelier, very wealthy man, Monty Bennett, who would like to have a mouthpiece a la Elon Musk and Twitter to use, big air quotes, journalism to attack political opponents. And this article was about Rep Wu's son. And I'm a parent, Chris is a parent, and I just think kids are off limits. This article was not sourced. The article was under a pen name. That's why Tatum and Chris are talking about how we're all here under our real names. And step by step, Stephen Monticelli goes through the accusations about State Rep Jean Wu's son, but also how the article just takes on hitting Rep Jean Wu. It was shared immediately on far-right Twitter. I'm so sorry to see the most recent This Week tweet from the CEO of Dallas Express thanking Stephen Monticelli for bringing up the article, saying you're helping this get a new audience. And this story has been seen by 1 million people, which, if that's true, it's really sad. And I'm also sorry to know that Yahoo News and the Dallas Express have a partnership. So sleaze going out from this article is being shared to a much wider audience And it looks legitimate if you don't know. If you don't know that State Rep Gene Wu has been hit over and over and over about his Chinese heritage. He and his wife are both born in China. They're both U.S. citizens now. You don't know that Republicans are talking about denaturalizing State Rep Gene Wu. It looks from a veneer of Yahoo News sharing this article with you. And that's where I saw it first. I didn't see it on far-right Twitter. I saw it on Yahoo News and thought, ugh, Dallas Express. I know what that's about. But what if you don't know what that's about? So Stephen Monticelli talks to professors of journalism at state schools across Texas. Multiple professors commented, calling this a hit job, calling this sleaze, saying that this does not adhere to basic journalism 101 practices. And I know Chris Putnam. Chris Putnam is the type of Tarrant County Republican that spurred Beau French to the platform that he is today. We've talked on In Progress about him tweeting, "What's worse for Texas, Jews or Muslims?"
Right.
That's the kind of Tea Party, MAGA, Tarrant County Republican that the CEO of Dallas Express is. And I really appreciate Stephen Monticelli going part by part through the allegations, asking so kindly, is this anything you would ever do? Is this anything you'd ever teach your students? Of course not. And I think it's really important to talk about buying into your news, because billionaires are. Monty Bennett bought this,
right,
so he can have a legitimate looking publication that takes out nasty hit pieces on leading progressives and their kiddos.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Which, again, yeah, kids should be off limits in all situations. And they, at the end of this article, he describes it as like mudslinging, political mudslinging. Absolutely. But why are we bringing kids into it? And thank you, Kathleen, for also pointing out that Rep. Gene Wu has been the face of many, many racially motivated attacks online. One person named in the article is Beau French, who, of course, is one of the most heinous racist politicians we have here in Texas, running for high office right now. We have him taking advantage of this opportunity because we have legitimate looking media online that can spread disinformation just so easily, so quickly with the touch of a button, which I think we'll talk a lot more about today.
I don't understand how you as a person can write a political hit piece, not about a politician, but about their kid, and not even put your name on it and go to sleep at night. I don't understand that. And also, side note, this is a horrible situation all around, but if this is the best Oppo research that they can do for Gene Wu, I think that just goes to show how awesome of a fighter he is and how scared they are for 2026.
Right.
You know, leaving kids out, of course, should be obvious to any of us. But I think that does point to the ethical chasm that we're staring across when it comes to the progressive perspective versus the conservative perspective these days. One side is, yes, about, oh my gosh, who would ever bring someone's children into a political conversation? The other side is, sure, whatever we need to do, whatever sort of smear we can come up with, who cares if it's about somebody's kid or somebody's grandma? There's no off limits. There's no holds barred when it comes to, one side sees all of this as blood sport.
Any
the other
tool
side sees
at your disposal. Right.
Absolutely. And we'll get to some of that too a little bit later on, Tatum. We've been trying to get to for a little while. So, and this brings down to the modern day requirement. Used to be when Kathleen and I were growing up, there was, 5 channels on TV and our local newspaper, and that was really it. And you didn't have to think about the agendas or the ownership or the goals, political goals that there might be when it comes to, any particular media outlet. You could pretty much, in the days of Walter Cronkite and Peter Jennings and whatnot, you could pretty much count on the idea that it was probably pretty accurate, or at least that there was not like a nefarious, slant behind it, meant to mislead you in some way or the other. These days, it is very, very different. As we talked about before, there's corporate media, there's independent media, there's right-wing media, there's left-wing media. And so let's talk about that a little bit, the differences between all of those different types of brands. Here at Progress Texas, I'll just say this, we are unabashedly, which is a word that Kathleen doesn't like us to use or unashamedly, progressive. There's nothing to be ashamed about or abashed about being progressive. And so we do indeed carry forward a progressive sort of agenda with what we do. And that's because The progressive agenda is a set of beliefs and ideals that we all believe in and all wish to convey. And that's really as simple as it gets.
Yeah.
Whereas, in the case of the Dallas Express, as Kathleen mentioned, they're operating under a name that was built as a progressive black newspaper back in the 1970s in the Dallas area. They are very deliberately trying to hide their political agenda at that particular outlet. And so talk about the differences between, what an outlet like Progress Texas, and I would say ostensibly an outlet like KPFT as well, considering that we have a partnership with them, the differences between that and what's happening on the right wing.
I think a part of what we do that makes it so important is our connection to the people and the communities that we live in. Of course there are local channels, but what does Rupert Murdoch know anything about the local stations and the communities that they're in? Like, we are Texans reporting about issues that are important to progressive Texans because we know what people need to hear about, because we're in these communities, we're in these fights. Like you said about the Walter Cronkite era of when you heard something, you kind of just knew that it was more or less the truth. And we're now living in this era where I can see a video that looks like it's real life and I have to think, is this a real video or not?
That's right.
And having that, just even a year or two ago, that wasn't a process that my brain was even beginning to think about. And now everything I see, I have to make sure that it's an actual real video that I can believe with my own two eyes. And a lot of people don't know how to do that. It's a really scary time right now where people are seeing things that aren't real and they're believing that they're real. And there are two different realities being created.
We've also been trying to get around to talking about AI and political ads. And I think Haley has provided a really good on-ramp right there. We've all heard the stories about, of course, we've seen on TV the ads featuring a Ken Paxton produced ad that featured John Cornyn dancing with Jasmine Crockett, which is something that never happened. We had just recently Governor Abbott sharing an AI generated photo of an American pilot being rescued in Iran, which that didn't happen either. So we're coming up on this moment where the Republican side seems to be all in on whatever sort of imagery. It doesn't matter if it's fake or not, as long as it puts forward their agenda, as long as it accomplishes their goal, which is to persuade people to come to their side. Whether it's fake or not is an afterthought to those folks. From my perspective, the progressive side is the one that has been a little bit more resistant to that idea, actually a lot more resistant to that idea, or I thought so anyway. Haley and I were at the Harris County Democratic Convention just a few weeks ago in Houston, and I love the Lincoln Project. I love Rick Wilson, but they trotted out an anti-Trump ad that was done with AI that features Trump's voice, saying all kinds of disgusting things about children. Really, really bad. We don't like Trump. We're anti-Trump here, but still, oh my gosh, are we going into this? Which leads me to the question I would ask the room here. Should progressives be leaving this weapon on the ground? If we're in a battle between, the progressive side and the conservative side, Democrats versus Republicans, if Republicans are willing to use a weapon in this battle, should progressives also be willing to use that weapon? Or, does the progressive side, do the Democrats risk losing in order to maintain their own ethical standing? Who wants that one first?
I think the answer to that question for our audience to discover is just follow the money, right? We have seen the midterms for this year infused with so much money, and the majority of that money is going to Republican candidates who are going to focus on deregulating and making sure that AI remains unregulated as much as possible. Why? Plain and simple. If people are misinformed, it's easier to control and motivate with disinformation. And so we know that AI is founded in this already. We've seen Republicans use AI ads for sure, but also just posts online to push forward disinformation and lies. And we've talked about it in multiple instances just today. So imagine the broad scale that this is taking place within. And then largely, we're just talking about AI within politics, but AI is a political tool that I think a lot of people are investing in, because look forward 10 years from now when our economy is going to look a lot different, where people have aged out of the workforce and AI is going to replace a lot of people's jobs. I'll share, I know multiple people, so I'm 24, about to turn 25, multiple people a couple years out of college who have had their brand new entry-level jobs replaced.
Right.
They've been kicked out by AI. To your question, should Democrats use it? I think my perspective is no, not for symbolic, like moral reasons that help differentiate them from the Republican Party. Like the Republican Party has already been using AI, so there's already that association. And then on top of that, the Democratic Party's values base sits very much in opposition to the unregulated usage of AI at this moment with no safety guards against AI also. So Dems support the environment, maybe, but that gets a little muddy when you're supporting data centers across the state. Water usage is a major concern for all Texans, no matter your party, right? Coming back to the original point of follow the money, make no mistake, no matter your party, people are paying our politicians to make sure that this is embedded in our infrastructure either way. So I would keep an eye out and see who is getting money from super PACs that promote AI.
I think that there's a difference in the way that it's used. Is it used to lie to people? I mean, I don't want to be in a race where somebody can use a car to drive somewhere and I'm on foot.
Right.
Or, saying that we're going to run a race and not have the same tools at our disposal. But are we using a tool to lie to people and to deceive them? I'm not seeing on the progressive side and the Democratic side outright lies or trying to tell people that something happened that didn't happen, that would misinform a voter and lead that person to vote a certain way. But we do see with corporate media like Fox News being sued for more than $1 billion by Dominion voting systems after day, show after show, repeating lies about Dominion voting systems. And Dominion voting systems taking them to court. And then it wasn't $1 billion verdict for them, but it was a settlement of almost $800 million. And then Fox having to say that they were at fault. And, going on a little bit even over to the right to Alex Jones in his case, saying that the things that he said were for entertainment purposes. It wasn't really meant to say that children murdered in their school was a false flag operation carried out by the federal government to take your guns away.
Right.
Horrible lies told to people who didn't know better. Should they have known better? Yes, but they didn't know better and they believed it. So I think that the question of AI should be less about the tool and more about the intent.
Totally right. It's the people. And I think that there's that point about trust, right? When we're talking about news, it's like, where do you turn? Who do you trust to deliver the truth, right? As much as we know logically, so many people have been told, whether it was through your education system or your parents, double check your sources. I'm told that by my Republican father a lot of the time, I'll tell you that. And I do. At the same time, my brain is hardwired to believe what I'm seeing. And so I think that's such a major cause for concern when we're talking about mis and disinformation through AI imagery, because as much as I know, there's a potential for AI imagery to lead me to believe something that it is made for. My brain is going to be scrolling through my phone and take it at its word at first glance. And so that's just to be really critical of the media that you're looking at, which we've heard time and time before, but it's so crucial right now, especially with so much money being infused into this election cycle. We know that AI will continue to be used to spout false narratives about candidates, about issue points, whatever it may be. But where is that coming from?
Let me say, I agree with your dad. Daddy's right. Check your sources.
Yep.
But I would say just as importantly, who owns those news sources?
Right.
Who owns your news? Because that's going to determine the news that you get.
To your question about whether or not I think Democrats and progressives should use AI, I think the reason that we see so much use of AI on the other side is because they don't live in reality. They live in a world where vaccines don't work, where Texas is being overcome by Sharia law. Of course, they need something to generate this world for them because they don't live in the same one that Democrats and progressives do. The Rick Wilson fake advertisement. Yes, we don't like Trump. I'm sure that it wasn't necessarily lying or misleading, but there's plenty of real world things that Donald Trump has done that you can make an ad out of, There needs to be a very real emphasis on this is what's happening in the real world because that's the one where we all live in and it's the one where real world consequences happen. And I think AI is just a tool to distract or circumvent reality in a way that I don't think is helpful or productive for people that want to make change.
All very, very true. And let me go back to something that was said earlier about the idea of the blurring of the line between news and information and entertainment. There was once a man by the name of Rush Limbaugh on just about every radio in America who, as I recall, back in my day, just about every show would remind his listeners, this is an entertainment show. This is not a news show. This is not an information show. This is an entertainment show, which of course was the disclaimer for what he was doing, which was very much warping the minds of people of conservative sort of proclivities in this country. And I'm on the AI tip as we close out on it. I am really, really concerned about a really, really well done AI-based October surprise coming our way during the election cycle. It would be really easy to drop something very dramatic and very well crafted and very hard to distinguish whether it's fake or not, landing, 2-3 weeks before the election and changing things up dramatically. So that's something I'm really concerned about, because at that point, there won't be time to figure out if it's fake and then to disseminate the information that it's fake in time for voters out there who also, like Tatum said, want to believe their eyes, want to believe their ears. Once you've believed something, it can tend to be hard to dissuade you of what you've chosen to believe. And so to me, it's a very dangerous moment that we're in with AI. But let's backtrack just a little bit here and talk about, the way that our media has fragmented. Once again, you got corporate media, all the money in the world, billions and billions of dollars, massive advertising budgets, tons and tons and tons of money to do whatever they want with it. And then you have independent, nonprofit media. That is very much dependent on the funding, often in little itty bitty pieces, from the people who they are accountable to, which is their viewers and their readers and their listeners. And so that's something to be thinking about when you're considering for yourself what form of media, what particular sources are you going to go to? The idea that, you turn on your radio and the radio is free. You turn on your TV and the TV's free. We've kind of gotten past where that is a workable model, especially if you're choosing to opt out of legacy media. If you've decided that, CNN, Fox News is not your jam anymore, you're going to go with something on a lower level, say the Texas Tribune, say the Texas Observer, all sorts of independent nonprofit options out there. As Kathleen said before, you can buy your news or billionaires will. And as far as I know, none of the four of us sitting here in this talk are billionaires.
Not me.
We all work in the nonprofit sector, so we're not going to be billionaires anytime soon. But still, for me personally, and I'll just share this to share, and nobody else has to, I have a budget of about $25 to $30 a month that I spend on different things that I think are important. I kick $5 a month to NPR. I kick $5 a month to the Texas Observer. I kick $5 a month to PBS, which, by the way, I get all kinds of great stuff out of PBS for my $5 a month via their app and whatnot. That's not an advertisement. That's just a satisfied customer.
I don't have a $25 a month budget. It cuts into the ramen noodles a little bit, but I make it a point. I don't have an Amazon Prime account. Despite the amount of things that I buy, I make an effort to go to the store and pick it up myself, because I don't want Jeff Bezos to have, my $6.99 student discount, and it's just little things like that. Like, sometimes my life can be a little more difficult because I don't have same day shipping, but I sleep easier at night knowing that his little bald head is not giving my money.
Yeah, I think there's lots of tools at our disposal to make sure that the truth is heard, that our communities are fed and housed. And so over the last year, I moved back to my city of Austin, where I went to college, and I was really glad to be an adult in the city. As I've moved back, I have found myself wanting to be a little bit more embedded into the media scene, being a media professional. And so when I get in my car, I don't connect my Spotify. I just listen to the radio instead, KUTX. That's my go-to. And I've got it on my phone now and hoping to support soon. I've been thinking about it more and more. The Austin Cron comes out every Thursday. I go pick it up and I try to support a local business, whether that's Radio Coffee down south or east. Both of them are very good, actually. Or Cafe Nanai down southeast Austin. So I think it's like a mixed bag, but I just try to put my money where my mouth is, which is supporting my community however we can, right?
Absolutely. Just live your ideals. Know what you believe in, and patronize things or businesses or publications or media sources that align with what you believe in. It's pretty easy to call to make. Okay, so great talk. And last week we wanted to talk about the Artemis space mission, and we didn't manage to get around to that. And I know I can see Haley in the screen, really excited to talk about the space mission. She is our resident, not only our resident spring chicken, but also our resident space nerd. So Haley, tell us what's up with the mission.
They come back tomorrow. Tomorrow is the 10th day of the mission. They'll be returning into our atmosphere, especially like during this conversation of corporate versus like nonprofit media and the division of the big billionaires versus us, the people. Seeing years and years of SpaceX launches for Elon Musk, it kind of took the fun out of space exploration,
Yes.
but this new launch has been so cool to see. And for me, what's really been hitting me emotionally is seeing those pictures that we've never seen humanity before of the moon and of Earth and Venus. And I see those pictures of our planet, and everybody's there. Everybody's there, including Jeff Bezos and his billionaire bald head.
Yeah.
We're all on this planet. And it makes me think about how, I mean, massive these problems are, but in reality, it's all of us on this little rock in space. And I think that's so cool. And it sucks that our president cares more about truth socialing genocide threats.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
The leader of the free world is ignoring this huge and monumental accomplishment for humanity. And I just wanted to give that a little love this week.
Very good. We really appreciate that. I had a couple of moments that I noticed, one of which had to do with our president, by the way, Haley, in his customary call from the president to the spacecraft, which we've seen presidents all the way back to something like Eisenhower or Kennedy or
Right.
whoever was doing that back in the day.
Kennedy.
I guess Nixon is the one that first pops out in mind. I think Nixon placed calls to the Apollo missions or whatever. They had Trump on the line, and Trump was rambling off something, and Trump stopped talking, and nobody said anything because everyone was tired of talking to Trump.
Yeah.
And I found that to be really cool. And there was also, this was really interesting, and I don't have the names of these astronauts handy.
It's Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen, 3 of which are American. Pretty significant that they didn't respond to the president.
Right. Yes, absolutely. So Christina, I'm going to say, placed a call to a female astronaut on the International Space Station, which marked one of the very rare, if not the first time, that we've had 2 spacecraft up that are talking to each other on the radio, which is really remarkable. But these 2 women happen to also have been on the same joint all-female spacewalk some years ago, something like 8 or 9 years ago. These 2 women who were talking between 2 spacecraft actually went and spacewalked together for the first time. 2 women ever did that, I guess back in probably 1819, something like that. So really, 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 and I got, by the way, I cried. I got verklempt when I heard, and they didn't say anything that was all that great. I'm very much like Haley, where I grew up on, shuttle launches, and there's nothing cooler than a rocket launch, at least until Elon Musk came along, and now rocket launches are no longer cool, which really sucks. I really would love to see a rebirth of the true emotional embrace of space exploration and science in general, something that we're really missing in this country, I would say. So guys, great talk. We appreciate it once again. Kathleen Thompson, thanks for joining. Haley Smith, thanks for joining. Tatum Owens, thanks for joining. This has been In Progress. Once again, Progress Texas amplifies progressive values, leaders, and actions. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. In Progress also airs on KPFT Radio in Houston, 90.1 FM HD2 every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. More information available now at kpft.org, and more information about our work is available at progresstexas.org.